Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT07, and BT07 offers us lots of new and powerful cards to upgrade and iterate some current and existing decks. And one of the best decks that's getting some very noticeable upgrades is going to be the Jessamon deck. Yes, the Jessamon deck is still going to be around in BT07. It's looking to be one of the more powerful decks that's going to be sticking around the BT07 format, and even though, yes, Savior Huckmon is going to be limited to one as of BT08, that has no bearings on how we could play the deck in BT07. So, without further ado, onto the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Demi-Meramon. So I could have ran a 5th Digitama in the deck if I really wanted to, but I noticed that the deck was moving fast enough and is strong enough where I really only need 4 Digitamas, so I might as well make it the 4 that I want. And Demi-Meramon is the 4 that I want because his when attacking ability just allows us to boost him by 1000 DP when we're attacking the player. So we're going to be attacking the player quite often, so that way we can ensure that he's going to try to make himself as strong as we possibly can make him. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Huckmon. So this is the BT06 version, and this is the deck's stereotypical digger. What's really powerful about this digging ability is that not only does he check the top 5, but we get to add 2 Digimon with Jessamon, Huckmon, or Sistermon in our name from any of the cards among the cards that were revealed into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So this is just a very powerful and easy way to try to dig out your parts and pieces. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Huckmon. So this is the brand new BT07 Huckmon, and this Huckmon is a digger, except a digger in a little bit of a different way. So it's actually a digging ability on an inheritable when attacking ability, so we do have to be Digivolved and we do have to attack in order to get this ability off, but it helps us find our Sistermons by letting us check the top 5 cards of our deck and adding all Sistermons. So the more Sistermons we see, the more we could take, and that's just what's making this really powerful because, well, we already know that Jessamon wants to be interacting with Sistermons, and the easier and more often we could see them, the more we could use their abilities. So the fact that we have a Huckmon to search out our Sistermons is really, really good. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Biyomon. So this is the Classic Collection Biyomon, and this Biyomon is just adding to the overall consistency of the deck because of its inheritable ability of when attacking once per turn. When we attack a player, then we get to draw a card, and drawing cards is really good because we need to see certain cards in order to be able to combo off as consistently as we possibly can, making this Biyomon just a really good card to use. And speaking of more consistency, next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Gyomon for basically almost the exact same thing, where we really just care about the inheritable ability, where when we delete an opponent's Digimon, it doesn't even specify by battle or by card effect, it's just as long as one of their Digimon goes away, then we get to draw 1 card, and again, drawing is really good because it helps with the overall consistency of the deck, but the Gyomon also has an upside to it with his own native ability to allow us to warp into a Gallantmon as long as the opponent has a level 6 or higher Digimon in play. So it's just a good catch-up and comeback kind of a card, and we actually do run the Gallantmon to try to make use of this ability when it comes up, even though it's rarely going to come up. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Sister Mont Blanc. So Sister Mont Blanc is probably one of the more important, if not the most important Sistermon in the whole deck. What she's doing is, well, she has the on-play ability of allowing us to draw a card. So her herself, if we start bricking, can start unbricking, and then on top of that, she has the very powerful ability where during all turns, if we have a Huckmon or a Digimon with Royal Knights in its type in play, then all of our Sistermons gain the blocker ability, which is basically acting as the primary defense of the deck because we're not running any other blockers in the deck. And then the last level 3 Digimon of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Sister Mont Blanc Awakened. So the awakened forms of each of the Sistermons are new to BT07, and I really think Blanc Awakened is absolutely insane. So you could already Digivolve this on top of a Blanc if you really wanted to, just to try to get some extra draw through evolution, to try to make your Blancs a little bit more useful. Then on top of that, she has an on-play ability of her own, where you get to place one Sistermon Blanc from your hand or trash underneath this card to recover one. So yes, now Jessamon has gone full yellow, and there is recovery in the deck to try to keep our security as healthy as we possibly can. And then on top of all of that, she even has her own on-delete ability, where we get to return one Jessamon or Huckmon or Sistermon, except for Blanc Awakened, from our trash to our hand, allowing us to even recycle some of our parts and pieces that we previously used, or were sent to the trash due to them being in the security, or discarded, or whatever reason on how they got there. Next, onto the level 4s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Bao Huckmon. So Bao Huckmon is, well, yes, another Huckmon, so we kind of have to run it for higher consistency reasons. But this card's actually still pretty good, considering, well, for a level 4, he does have some slightly aggressive stats, and on top of that, he has a really powerful inheritable ability we could take advantage of, adding some extra control elements into the deck, because his inheritable ability states, when attacking once per turn, if you have a Digimon with Sistermon in its name in play, then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 5,000 DP or less to try to pick and control some of their smaller or weaker Digimon. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Greymon. So this is the starter deck Greymon, and this Greymon is still an absolutely insane card just because it has the very generic and very powerful inheritable ability of giving whatever he digivolves into security attack +1. So this is just a really powerful ability to use just to try to give whatever Digimon you're using on top of him to try to deal more security damage and pressure the opponent even more than you normally would. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Geo Greymon. So this is kind of a flex spot in the deck. If you wanted to, you could run anything in this slot. I just feel like because we do have a little bit of recovery, I do value the security Digimon just because, well, we're also not running a whole lot of security threats, and having some security threats isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. So the primary reason why I'm running this card is because, yes, he is a security Digimon, so when he's checked in our security, not only will he perform the security check and have a potential deleting a Digimon through the security check, but he also gets to play himself, and he has an on-play ability in tandem with that security ability, where he gets to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 4,000 DP or less, adding even more control elements to the deck. Even if we brick and we have to hard play this card, if the opponent has a Digimon out that's a viable target, then it's not necessarily the worst card to hard play in the world. And then the last level 4 of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Sistermon CL. So Sistermon CL is another really good and really important card for the deck because of all of the synergy she has with the deck. So she has 2 abilities. Her first one is an all turns ability, where all of your Digimon with Huckmon in their name or Royal Knight in their type gets plus 2,000 DP. So just a generic DP boost, and the important thing is because it's on all turns, it makes it even harder for the opponents to interact with our Digimon, just because the buff persists through their turn as well. And then on top of that, she also has an on-play ability where we get to gain 1 memory, so if we're hard playing her, then she's actually costing us 3, or most of the time we're going to try to res her off of Jessamon or play her for free off of something like Savior Huckmon or our option to just naturally gain a memory that way. So she's just another very good card for the deck to run just because of all of that synergy. Next, on to the level 5s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Savior Huckmon. Yes, I do understand this card is going to be limited, but that's not until BT 08, and while we have the ability to play him at full power, might as well do it, right? So Savior Huckmon is an absolutely insane card for this deck to be running because this is the powerhouse backbone of what the deck is trying to do. So the when Digivolving ability is pretty decent that he has, where you get to play a card with Sistermon in its name from your hand for free. So free value is just good value. And then on top of that, what's more important about the card is his inheritable ability, where when attacking once per turn, if we have a Digimon with Sistermon in its name in play, then we get to unsuspend this Digimon, allowing our Jessamon to multi-attack, so that way we could try to deal as much damage as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can. Just because we already know Jessamon's going to be able to play the Sistermons, and Savior Huckmon even is allowing us to try to play the Sistermons as well. So this is just an absolutely fantastic and very powerful card, just because this ability isn't locked solely to Jessamon, and any Digimon can use this ability as long as we just have a Sistermon on the field, making it for a very powerful card to be using, even with our supporting Mega. And then as far as the other level 5 of the deck, I'm going to be running 2 copies of War Growlmon. So I've been playing around with a whole bunch of other level 5s, and I just found them to be not as efficient or effective as what War Growlmon is providing. So War Growlmon is a very powerful level 5 Digimon for the deck to be running, not only just as an alternate level 5 to use to try to get up into our level 6s, because we do need to try to see our level 5s to go into our level 6s, but it's also a really good card to use on his own in case we don't even see our level 6s. So what this card's doing that's so strong is he has a when attacking ability where we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less to try to control some of their rookies. Then on top of that, he has 8000 DP naturally and a play cost of 8, so that way he's going to be a little bit harder to deal with than your average level 5. And on top of that, he has a really powerful inheritable ability where during your turn, once per turn, when one of the opponent's Digimon is deleted, then this Digimon gains Security Attack Plus, so we have another way to add Security Attack Plus to whatever level 6 that we're using with multiple different ways to try to delete the opponent's Digimon. Then as far as the level 6s go, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the main man himself, Mr. Jessamon. So Jessamon here is an absolutely very powerful Digimon to be playing around with, just because everything the deck is doing just makes this card super strong. So he has a when attacking ability not limited to once per turn, so that's where Savior Huckmon becomes really, really valuable, where we get to play a Digimon with Sistermon in its name from our hand or trash for free. So we just have lots of different Sistermons that we could just throw out to try to accumulate some free extra value. And then on top of that, he has another really powerful ability where during your turn once per turn, when another Digimon comes into play, namely the Sistermon that you're playing off of his first ability, this Digimon gains a plus 3000 DP and the piercing ability until the end of the turn. So this is just a way for him to boost himself to make him stronger than basically anything he's going to be attacking into, and with some more DP boosts and various other abilities that we have, we can make him a very strong Digimon very quickly. And then as far as the supporting mega for the deck goes, the deck actually doesn't really need one if you don't feel like you want to run it, and you could save the deck space for something else, but I do just value that safety net of just having a supporting mega to act as basically an alternate win condition when we can't see our primary one. So I'm going to be using 1 copy of the starter deck Gallantmon because I actually think this card is pretty good and it has some decent synergy with what the deck is trying to do in of itself. So he naturally has Security Attack +1, so that way when we use him, he's going to be dealing more damage than your average card would, and then on top of that, he has his own when attacking ability, again, not limited to once per turn, where we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP or less, and then if no Digimon was deleted through this effect, then he gains plus 3000 DP until the end of the turn instead. So this is just another really good card that could boost himself or try to deal with some of the opponent's threats. And then the last mega of the deck is going to be 1 copy of Omnimon. So this is the BT05 Omnimon, and this Omnimon is just in the deck because it's just an alternate win condition, and we're just trying to use this card to finish the game. So what this card's doing is he has 2 when digivolving abilities. His first when digivolving ability is Blitz, so that allows him to attack even when the memory passes onto the opponent's turn. And then he also has another when digivolving ability to unsuspend this Digimon, so that way we could use it in combination with whatever level 6 that we just attacked with. So the whole idea on how we're using this card as an alternate win condition is we're going to attack out with our level 6, and then once all of the opponent's security is broken, then we could just digivolve into Blitz Omnimon and basically get an extra swing to try to swing for game, and that's all we're looking to gain out of the card. His Altern's ability of adding some protection is pretty useful, but it should almost never come up because most of the time we're just trying to use him as an alternate win condition. But sometimes there are those situations where you do need to just digivolve into Omnimon right away, then his Altern's ability to protect himself is actually pretty relevant depending on the matchup. Next, on to the options. I'm going to be playing a very well-rounded option package. So I'm going to be playing 2 copies of A Delicate Plan. So A Delicate Plan is still a pretty okay card. I'm not super thrilled with it. This is more of a meta or tech card. So if we become less and less afraid of the opponent's security, then we could easily take this card out for literally anything else. But right now, this card is still pretty decent just because security threats are still very scary and we don't want to lose to the security. So what this card is doing is it allows us to give one of our Digimon the ability where it doesn't check the security effects of option cards in the security for the turn, and, well, that just basically eliminates the opponent's security threats from, well, being threats, making it very easy and very safe for us to swing and aggress onto the opponent with. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Judgment of the Blade. So Judgment of the Blade is, for all intents and purposes, our big removal card, just because it allows our Digimon with Huckmon in its name or Royal Knights in its type to be able to attack into the opponent's unsuspended Digimon for the turn. So the whole idea is it just allows our Digimon to beat up into the opponent's Digimon, and with all of our buffs and just naturally stronger Digimon, depending on which Digimon we're using to aggress with, we could just easily attack into the opponent's Digimon to be able to delete it off the field, and there's just not a whole lot that they can do because of it. And then on top of that, it has a decent security ability where we get to play 1 Digimon with Sistermon from our hand or trash for free, so it's just acting as basically a security Digimon when it's checked in our security, assuming we have the Sistermon to do it with. This is really powerful, especially since we have the new Sistermon Blanc Awaken to be able to recover with, so the more different Sistermons we have, the better this type of a card becomes. And then the last option of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Red Memory Boost. So Red Memory Boost is just another consistency tool and resource engine for the deck. So it just allows us to look at the top 4 for any red Digimon among them and put it into our hand, then the rest go to the bottom. Then we get to use the delay ability at a later turn, where instead of this card going to the trash, it stays on the field to gain 2 memory at a later turn, so that way we could try to make some very powerful follow-up plays with. And then the last card of the deck is going to be the only tamer of the deck, and that's going to be 2 copies of Tai Kamiya. So Tai Kamiya is going to be that dedicated memory fixing tamer, so if our memory is ever less than 3, he'll just always hard set us to 3, which is really, really important to be at 3, so that way we could Digivolve into Jessamon and not pass the turn. And then on top of that, he has another ability, which is just icing on the cake, where all of our red Digimon with 4 or more Digivolution sources gain security attack +1, so it just allows our Jessamon or potentially our Gallantmon to hit even harder than they normally would, which is never a bad thing, especially since we have Savior Huckmon to try to multi-attack with them. So that way we could easily line up an evolution stack where we could break 4 to 6 security without even breaking a sweat or even thinking about it, making for Tai the best red tamer that we have to be playing around with for this deck. And then there's still room for customization and flexibility depending on what you want to gain out of the deck. If you do want some other Digitamas to think about utilizing, Yokomon is really good because it's a good card to use for attacking into the opponent's Digimon. So if you want to play more of a control style game, then this is a really good Digitama to reward you for that. But you could also just use Baby Demon if you just want to focus solely on Jessamon and do nothing else but Jessamon, because this card basically just gives Jessamon an extra plus 2000 DP, which is never a bad thing. Then, as far as some other really decent Digimon you could consider running, if you want to run like a little bit of an anti-meta card, then you could consider running Gaussmon to try to stop the opponent from reducing their Digivolution costs, which is actually going to be pretty important considering a lot of the level 5 hybrids like to reduce their cost as long as they're Digivolving from a hybrid to a hybrid. So this could be a really good card at shutting some of those strategies down. Then we do have some alternate ways to draw in the deck, so if you want, you could run the Promobiomon just to try to draw more cards, or if you want to play an aggressive rookie, then you also could run the Promogiomon to, again, just try to draw more cards, just because we do want to try to find our parts and pieces as quickly and efficiently as we possibly can, so that way we could try to climb our stages and make the best Jessamon stack we possibly can for when we use that card to aggress with. Then, because we are running a tamer, we could run a little bit more on the tamer side and run like 3, maybe 4 ties. I think 4 ties might be a little bit too much, but even if you're running like 3 ties, that's still not a bad amount. And then that opens the doors for us to use Agunimon as an alternate game finisher. So that way we could just Digivolve on top of a tie and then swing with Agunimon for game, just because hybrids win games, and hybrids are still very, very powerful because of the uninteractive element they provide and offer for the deck. Then we did get a new Sistermon CL Awakened. I just feel like we don't really need this card because it's just more removal on top of, well, a deck already having some decent removal. Then as far as some alternative level 5s you could run, you could just cut all of the fluff and filler and just run something like Voltramon as an alternate level 5, just because, well, it has the inheritable ability of just giving security attack plus, so you could just add more security damage to whatever Digimon you're going to be swinging with, which is never a bad thing. Or you could try to be cute and you could make Rise Greymon work, just because his Digiburst ability will actually let us play our tamers more efficiently, which is never a bad thing. And then on top of that, his when attacking ability also could combo with how we could build our Jessamon stack. So that way we could use the minus 2000 DP in combination with Bauhackmon to basically be able to delete Digimon with 7000 DP or less, which is pretty strong. And then as far as an alternative supporting Mega for the deck, we could just run BT01 War Greymon, just because this is still one of the better red cards that we could be playing around with. Then we do have some other level 7s that we could think about playing with. I'm just going to be highlighting Omnimon X Antibody, just because if the opponent isn't prepared for an X Antibody could wall them out of the game and swing things in your favor very, very quickly. And then we do have some really good options to think about utilizing depending on how you want to run your option lineup. So we do have some really powerful removal options in the form of Gaia Force and in the form of Atomic Blaster as two of the better removal cards that we could be running. But we do also have some really good tech cards in the form of Program Emergency Halt, so that way we could try to end the turn using this card to try to make our Jessamon as safe as we possibly can, to try to keep them around as long as we possibly can. And then if you really wanted to play some other tamers in the deck, you could. There isn't really that much deck space to want to run many other tamers outside of just Tai, but Analog Youth is a pretty cute one to think about, just because he helps the deck's overall consistency. He fills up our trash. Most of the time we want to fill up our trash with our Sistermons, but we do have ways to recur some of our other cards, thanks to the new Awakened cards. So it's not like it's horrible to try to fill up our trash, and then when our Digimon that's level 5 or higher dies, then we get to basically hatch another Digi-Egg and gain a memory to try to make a very aggressive follow-up play with. So it's just a pretty solid tamer to use overall. But for the most part, this is just my interpretation on what a solid base or foundation for a Jessamon deck in BT07 is going to be looking like. Yes, I still do understand that Savior Huckmon is going to be limited to 1 after this set, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there on trying to keep Jessamon as relevant as we possibly can, because he is a fan favorite Digimon, and a lot of people really do like the deck because it is a fun and very powerful deck to be playing around with. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.